Patrick's been very ill for quite a considerable length of time now, but very sad. There's never been an astronomer like Patrick, and he will be greatly missed.
And such a familiar face to so many. I believe he was the longest-running presenter on British television.
Oh, yes. I think many generations of astronomers and people interested in astronomy have come to astronomy through Patrick. I remember persuading my dad to let me stay up late on a Sunday night to watch the sky at night when it was still in black and white in the 1960s. Patrick started broadcasting in the middle of the 1950s, did several series on astronomy, not all of which caught on, but when they had the idea of a monthly program, The Sky at Night, that started, as you said, a record-breaking number of appearances every month since then, and it's a record that's unlikely ever to be matched by any other broadcaster, and certainly no other scientist.
No, and a childhood hero for anyone who is interested in science or the stars. The kind of events he covered, the moon landings, the Wright brothers. Just tell us a little bit more about that. Well,
Patrick was able to span the generations in talking to the people who first got into space, got into the air, the Wright brothers. He knew Einstein. He talked to Einstein. He interviewed Neil Armstrong. He was witness to the great time of the space race when we were going to the moon. Remember, the start of The Sky at Night occurred almost exactly at the start of the space age. So he had Sputnik, he had Apollo, Mercury, he had the race between the Russians and the Americans, he had the space stations, he traveled the world to observe eclipses. He showed us great observatories and great discoveries in astronomy over this period. But Patrick actually had more than that. He had an unknown life, an unknown history during the Second World War when he lied about his age to join the Air Force. He was dropped behind enemy lines and evidently did some heroic work there, which he never spoke about since. He was a remarkable, multifaceted English eccentric, and the like of which we rarely see these days.
He was eccentric, but he never lost that curiosity, did he? I don't think he ever even retired, did he? I think the latest Sky at Night was broadcast just a few days ago, and I guess that was what he'd have wanted.
Oh, exactly. The idea of retiring was an anathema to him. He couldn't conceive the fact that he should stop doing astronomy. And astronomy was his central love, his central passion, and the thing which distinguished, I mused about this years ago, I thought, what is it that distinguishes Patrick? Apart from his insatiable enthusiasm for astronomy. It's the fact that he, unlike other experts, he loved astronomy more than he loved himself. He was passionate, he was dedicated, and had an unselfish love of astronomy. And he passed that on to everybody who knew him and he came across. He was a difficult person, personally, to deal with on many occasions. He was sometimes awkward, truculent, stubborn, but that was Patrick. That was part of his remarkable personality, which so many people came to enjoy and love. And we realized, I think many people realized, that he was a unique person. There's never been an astronomer like Patrick, not a professionally trained astronomer, and yet did professional quality work, particularly when it came to mapping the moon in the 50s. And I think every astronomer in the world owes something to Patrick Moore.
You talk about his enormous enthusiasm for the stars and for astronomy. It was very sad to read over the last year that his arthritis and the wartime injury, you mentioned his service then, had caused him so much pain. He was no longer able to hold his telescope. Did you meet him in recent months?
Yes, it was rather difficult in recent years because he still had that inner passion, that inner enthusiasm, but of course his body was letting him down. The thing which struck him more than anything else, I think, was being unable to play cricket. I think when he couldn't go and play cricket on a Sunday, he was devastated about that. And then when he couldn't actually get to his telescope in his garden, that was a great sadness. And he accepted that stoically. He still realized that he could still find out about astronomy, he could still talk about it. Although his speech in recent years was sometimes difficult. And there was, I suppose you could say, a sadness with Patrick and with his friends, in the sense that he had an insatiable, unstoppable desire to communicate, which he couldn't fulfill properly in his final years.